The champagne glass shattered against the marble floor, its crystal fragments scattering like frozen tears across the pristine surface of their Gangnam penthouse. Angela stood frozen, her hand still outstretched from where the glass had slipped, her dark brown eyes locked on her husband's phone screen, the text message still glowing with betrayal. Tonight was perfect. She'll never be what we are to each other. Soo-jin! Minjay's face drained of color as he lunged for the phone, but Angela was faster. She stepped back, her heart hammering so violently she could hear it echoing in her ears, feel it pulsing through every nerve ending in her body. For 3 years, she had ignored the signs, the late meetings, the cooling affection, the way his colleagues' eyes would slide over her at company dinners as if she were invisible, or worse, an embarrassment. "Angela, wait!" Minjay's voice cracked, his hand reaching toward her. "Don't." The word came out steady, colder than she felt. Inside, where everything was burning, "Don't say anything." She placed his phone carefully on the glass coffee table, each movement deliberate, controlled. Inside, she was screaming. Outside, she was stone. Her grandmother's words echoed from childhood. "A woman's dignity is her fortress. Never let them see it crumble." "It's not what you think," Minjay said, running his hands through his perfectly styled hair, destroying the careful image he'd spent an hour crafting that morning. "Soo-jin and we're just colleagues. She's being dramatic." Angela laughed, a sharp sound that surprised even her. "Colleagues. Is that what you call the woman you've been sleeping with for 6 months?" His silence was confirmation enough. She had known, hadn't she? Known from the way he'd started introducing her at his investment firm's events, "This is my wife, Angela," with that slight pause before her name, as if he had to remind himself who she was. Known from the way his mother would purse her lips. Whenever Angela spoke Korean with her Kenyan accent, the syllables never quite landing where they should. Known from the whispers at the exclusive Seoul social club about how Minjay had married down, chosen an outsider, someone who would never truly belong to his world of old money and older prejudices. "You're ashamed of me," Angela said quietly, and watched him flinch. "You've always been ashamed of my father being Kenyan, of my skin being darker than yours, of the fact that I don't fit into your perfectly curated life." "That's not true. Don't lie." The words exploded from her, 3 years of swallowed hurt finally erupting. "I've watched you minimize everything I am. My design firm wins the Seoul Architecture Prize, and you tell your colleagues it's a small, local thing. I get featured in Architectural Digest, and you don't even mention it to your family. I speak at the Asia-Pacific Design Summit, and you schedule a golf game instead of attending. You've spent our entire marriage trying to make me smaller so you could feel bigger." Minjay's jaw tightened, and for a moment, she saw something flicker in his eyes, recognition, maybe even shame. But then his face hardened into the mask she'd come to know so well. "You don't understand the pressure I'm under. My position at the firm, my family's expectations, your family's expectations," Angela repeated bitterly. "You mean their expectation that you'd marry someone who looks like Soo-jin, someone pale and petite and perfectly Korean, someone who wouldn't embarrass them at country club dinners or make your colleagues whisper about your exotic taste. You're being unfair." "Am I?" Angela grabbed her clutch from the console table, her hands trembling now with rage and grief, and something that felt dangerously close to liberation. "You know what's unfair, Minjay? Spending 3 years loving someone who saw my love as a burden, who saw my success as a threat, who looked at my face and wished it were someone else's." She walked toward their bedroom, each step measured, refusing to run even though every instinct screamed at her to flee. Behind her, Minjay called her name, but she didn't turn. She packed a single bag, essentials only, and called her best friend. "Hana," she said when the line connected, her voice finally breaking. "I need somewhere to stay." Hana Park's apartment in Itaewon was everything. Minjay's Gangnam penthouse wasn't warm, cluttered with life, filled with the scent of jasmine tea and old books. Hana, her best friend since their university days, took one look at Angela's face and pulled her into a fierce embrace. "I'm going to destroy him," Hana announced, guiding Angela to the overstuffed couch. "Professionally, socially, spiritually, pick your method." Despite everything, Angela laughed. "I don't want revenge. I don't know what I want. You want your power back? Hana said firmly, pouring them both generous glasses of wine. He took it, piece by piece, and now you're going to reclaim it? All of it. Over the next few days, Angela moved through her routines, mechanically, overseeing projects at her firm, meeting with clients, reviewing designs, but everything felt muted, as if she were watching her life through frosted glass. At night, she lay awake in Hana's guest room, alternating between rage and grief, reliving every moment she'd ignored her own diminishment. It was Hana who insisted she attend the annual Seoul Arts Foundation Gala. Absolutely not, Angela said, staring at the embossed invitation. Minjay will be there. With her. Exactly. Hana's eyes gleamed with fierce determination. And you're going to walk in there like the brilliant, successful, gorgeous woman you are and remind everyone, especially yourself, that you never needed him to shine. I can't. You can. You will. Hana squeezed her hand. And you won't be alone. I'm calling in reinforcements. The reinforcement turned out to be Quan. Jung, a tech entrepreneur whose artificial intelligence startup had just secured record-breaking international funding. Angela had met him months ago at a design conference where she'd presented her work on sustainable urban architecture. He'd approached her afterward, his warm smile genuine, his questions about her work intelligent and engaged. Jae-sung wants to collaborate on that eco-city project you proposed, Hana explained. He's been trying to reach you for weeks, but you've been distracted. Distracted. That was one word for it. Angela had been so consumed with managing Minjay's discomfort, accommodating his embarrassment, that she'd let opportunities slip through her fingers. When Jae-sung called, his voice was exactly as she remembered, warm, enthusiastic, respectful. I've been following your work for years, he said without preamble. Your integration of natural elements with modern design philosophy is revolutionary. I want to build the future with you, Angela. Literally. Something in his directness, his unashamed admiration, made her chest tighten. You're not worried about my background? My mixed heritage? There was a pause. Then, why would I be worried about the very thing that makes your perspective unique? Your ability to bridge cultures, to see beyond traditional boundaries, that's your superpower, not your flaw. Angela closed her eyes, feeling something crack open inside her. When was the last time someone had valued her wholeness instead of asking her to shrink? The Seoul Arts Foundation Gala is next week, Jae-sung continued. Come as my guest. We can discuss the project and you can show Seoul what they've been missing while they've been too blind to see you properly. You know I'm married, she said quietly. I know you're separated, he replied gently. Hana told me. I'm not proposing romance, Angela. I'm proposing partnership, respect, recognition. Everything you deserve and haven't been receiving. She thought of Minjay, of his shame and lies, of Sujin's smug text message. Then she thought of herself, her designs, her vision, her dreams that she'd been folding smaller and smaller to fit into Minjay's narrow world. I'll meet you there, she said. The night of the gala, Angela stood in front of Hana's full-length mirror, barely recognizing herself. The dress was stunning, deep emerald silk that brought out the golden undertones in her brown skin, cut to showcase her height and curves rather than hide them. Her hair, usually straightened into submission, fell in natural coils around her shoulders. Hana had insisted on a makeup artist who understood how to work with her complexion, highlighting rather than lightening. You look like a queen, Hana whispered, eyes shining. Your own queen. Not his accessory. The Seoul Arts Foundation Gala was held at the National Museum of Modern and Contemporary Art, its glass walls reflecting the city lights like captured stars. Angela's hands trembled as Jae-sung offered her his arm at the entrance. Breathe, he said softly. You belong here. You've always belonged here. He was striking in his tailored suit, his confidence quiet but unshakable. As they entered, conversations paused, heads turned. Angela felt the weight of dozens of eyes, heard the whispered recognition. For the first time in years, she didn't wish to disappear. Instead, she lifted her chin and met their gazes directly. And then she saw him. Minjay stood near the champagne fountain, Sujin delicate and pale beside him in a white dress that screamed innocence. His face went slack with shock when their eyes met, and Angela watched the blood drain from his features. Soojin followed his gaze, her smug smile faltering. Shall we? Jae-sung murmured and guided her deeper into the crowd. People approached them constantly, gallery owners, fellow architects, tech investors, artists. Jae-sung introduced her as the visionary behind the future of sustainable urban design, and each time he highlighted her achievements without inserting himself into her narrative. He was a partner who made space for her light rather than demanding she dim it for his. Your work on the Hannah Regeneration Project was extraordinary, a gallery director gushed. The way you integrated the traditional Hanok elements with modern sustainability, it was like watching culture and future become one. Thank you, Angela said, her voice growing steadier with each conversation. I believe architecture should honor where we've been while imagining where we're going. Angela's next project will be her masterpiece, Jae-sung added. An entire eco-district that will redefine how we think about urban living. She felt Minjay's presence before she saw him. He materialized at her elbow, his cologne too strong, his smile too bright. Angela, he said, as if they were casual acquaintances. I didn't know you'd be here. Didn't you? She turned to face him fully, noting how his eyes flickered with uncertainty, how his perfect composure was cracking at the edges. Strange. This is exactly the kind of event I've been attending for years. Though I suppose you were usually too busy to notice. Soojin appeared beside him, her fingers possessively curling around his arm. Up close, she was younger than Angela had imagined. Mid-20s perhaps, with the kind of delicate features that Korean beauty standards worshipped. This must be your wife, Soojin said, her voice saccharine. Minjay has told me so much about you. Has he? Angela's smile was sharp. How interesting. He's told me absolutely nothing about you, but then why would he? Secrets require silence. Minjay's face flushed. Angela, please, can we talk privately? No, she said simply. We're done talking privately. We're done talking at all. You're being childish, and you're being predictable. Angela felt Jae-sung's steadying presence beside her, giving her strength without speaking. You! Know what's funny, Minjay? I spent 3 years thinking I wasn't enough for you. Too dark, too foreign, too ambitious, too much of everything you found embarrassing. But the truth is, you were never enough for me. People around them had stopped pretending not to listen. Conversations died, and Angela felt the weight of Seoul's elite society focusing on this moment. You wanted me to be smaller, she continued, her voice carrying in the sudden quiet, to dim my light so yours could seem brighter. To hide my achievements so they wouldn't threaten your fragile ego. To apologize for my very existence because it didn't fit the narrow mold your family and colleagues demanded. But here's what you never understood. I was never the problem. Your shame was. Your cowardice was. Your inability to see value in anything that didn't reflect your own image back at you was... Minjay's face had gone from red to ashen. I loved you. You loved the idea of being progressive enough to marry someone. Different, Angela interrupted. But you never loved me enough to defend me, to celebrate me, to be proud of standing beside me. Every time your colleagues made their little comments about my unique looks or my interesting background, you said nothing. Every time your mother suggested I should dress more appropriately or speak more carefully, you told me to compromise. You wanted a trophy that proved your open-mindedness, but you wanted it to stay hidden in a case. That's not fair, Soojin started, but Angela's gaze silenced her. You're welcome to him, Angela said coolly. To his shame, his insecurity, his need for constant validation. I'm sure you'll be very happy giving him everything I could in obedience, conformity, a reflection of what he already is, rather than a challenge to become something more. She turned to leave, Jae-sung moving with her, when Minjay grabbed her wrist. Wait, please. I made mistakes, but we can work on this. Angela looked down at his hand on her wrist, then back up at his face. Let go of me, Minjay. You already did that emotionally. Now do it physically. He released her as if burned, and she walked away, feeling 100 eyes on her back. She expected shame, embarrassment, regret. Instead, she felt powerful, free, whole. Jae-sung led her to a quiet balcony overlooking Seoul's glittering skyline. The night air was cool against her heated skin. You were magnificent. he said softly. I was cruel, she whispered, suddenly shaking. You were honest. Jae-sung handed her his handkerchief as tears finally began to fall. Sometimes honesty feels cruel because we're so used to swallowing our truth to make others comfortable. Angela pressed the handkerchief to her eyes, letting herself cry for the first time since finding that text message. 3 years. I wasted 3 years trying to be enough for someone who never intended to fully accept me. Not wasted, Jae-sung said gently. You learned what you don't want, what you won't accept, what you refuse to become. Those are valuable lessons, even if they hurt to learn. She looked at him through blurred vision. Why are you being so kind to me? Because I see you, he said simply. Not the version of you that someone wants you to be. The actual you, brilliant, complex, beautiful in every sense. And because I know what it's like to be made to feel like you don't belong in spaces you helped create. You do? Jae-sung smiled sadly. My mother is Korean. My father is Black American military family. I grew up in Seoul being called mixed, like it was a warning label. Too dark for Korea, too Korean for America. I built my company, achieved success that should have earned respect, but there are still rooms where I walk in and see the calculation in people's eyes. Different is always suspect until it's undeniably successful. Angela felt something shift inside her, a recognition deeper than attraction. How did you learn to stop shrinking? I realized that the people who wanted me smaller were intimidated by my potential to be larger. Their discomfort was about their limitations, not mine. He stepped closer, his voice earnest. You don't need to earn the right to take up space, Angela. You don't need permission to be fully yourself. And you definitely don't need to dim your light for people too weak to handle your brightness. Before she could respond, Hana burst onto the balcony, her phone extended. You need to see this. The screen showed a video already going viral on Korean social media, Angela's confrontation with Minjay, captured by dozens of phones, edited and shared. The comments were flooding in, divided but passionate. Some criticized her for public drama, but so many more were celebrating her. Finally, someone said it. The way Korean society treats biracial people is disgusting. She's right. Minjay is trash. I hope she takes everything in the divorce. Angela is a whole queen. That dress, that speech, that power. I'm biracial Korean and I've never felt so seen. Thank you for speaking our truth. Angela read the comments with trembling hands, tears streaming freely now. I didn't mean to. I wasn't trying to become a symbol. Maybe not, Hana said gently. But sometimes our personal truth resonates because it's not just personal. It's collective. You spoke for every mixed-race person who's been made to feel like they need to apologize for existing. Every woman who's been told to be smaller, quieter, more convenient. Every person who's been treated like their love and loyalty aren't valuable because they don't fit someone's narrow aesthetic. Over the next weeks, Angela's life transformed in ways both devastating and exhilarating. The divorce proceedings were brutal. Minjay's family hired expensive lawyers, tried to paint her as unstable, opportunistic, but public opinion was overwhelmingly on her side. And more importantly, she had her own resources. Her architecture firm's profile had skyrocketed after the gala, new clients flooding in, international opportunities emerging. Her collaboration with Jae-sung on the Eco District project became the talk of Seoul's design world. They worked seamlessly together, his technological innovation complementing her architectural vision, creating something neither could have achieved alone. Late nights in her new studio in Hongdae became filled with sketches, 3D models, passionate debates about sustainability and beauty and function. What if we integrated vertical gardens here? Angela traced her finger along the blueprint. Living walls that filter air and provide food for residents? Brilliant, Jae-sung said, leaning over her shoulder to study the design. And we could use AI to optimize the irrigation systems, adjust based on weather patterns and plant health. She turned her head, finding his face inches from hers, and felt her breath catch. Over the weeks, friendship had deepened into something else, something electric and terrifying and undeniable, but she wasn't ready. Not yet. Jae-sung, she said softly, I need to ask you something. Anything. Why me? Really, you're successful, brilliant, you could collaborate with anyone. Why are you investing so much time and energy into this project? Into Me? He straightened, holding her gaze with an intensity that made her pulse quicken. Because when I look at you, I see someone who refuses to compromise their vision, even when the world demands it. You create beauty that serves purpose. You honor tradition while building future. You're exactly who you are without apology, and that's revolutionary in a world that constantly demands we edit ourselves. He paused, then added quietly, and because I've been half in love with you since that design conference 18 months ago, when you told that pompous investor that if he couldn't see the value in sustainable architecture, he didn't deserve to profit from urban development. Angela's heart stuttered. Jae-sung, I'm not asking for anything, he said quickly. I know you're healing. I know trust is earned, not assumed. I just wanted you to know that I see you completely, your strength and vulnerability, your brilliance and doubt, every complicated, beautiful piece, and I'm not going anywhere. She stood, closing the distance between them, and took his hands in hers. I'm terrified, she admitted, of being wrong again, of trusting again, of loving again. I know, and I'm willing to wait as long as you need, forever, if necessary. His smile was soft, patient. I'm not Minjay, Angela. I don't need you to be anything other than yourself. Your success doesn't threaten me, it inspires me. Your complexity doesn't exhaust me, it fascinates me. Your differences don't embarrass me, they're what make you extraordinary. Angela felt tears welling again, but this time they were different. Not grief, but recognition, hope. I think, she whispered, I might be falling in love with you too. Slowly, carefully, but really. Then we'll fall slowly together. Jae-sung said, lifting her hands to his lips. No rush, no pressure, just us, building something real. 6 months later, Angela stood on the stage at the Asia Women in Design Summit, looking out at thousands of faces, young architects, designers, students, dreamers. The Eco-District project was nearly complete, already winning international awards. Her firm had expanded, hired a diverse team, become known for designs that honored cultural complexity. And Jae-sung sat in the front row, his smile proud and genuine, asking nothing of her but her happiness. I want to talk about belonging, Angela began, her voice clear and strong. For years, I twisted myself into shapes that weren't mine, trying to fit into spaces that demanded I minimize myself to gain entry. I apologized for my heritage, my appearance, my ambitions, anything that made others uncomfortable. I loved someone who saw my differences as flaws to be managed rather than strengths to be celebrated. She paused, remembering Minjay's face at the gala, Soojin's possessive grip, the years of accumulated small rejections. But here's what I learned. We are not obligated to shrink so others can feel bigger. We are not required to dim our light so others aren't blinded by their own inadequacy. We are not meant to apologize for taking up space in rooms we built ourselves. Her voice rose with passion. Your mixed heritage, your accent, your unconventional beauty, your bold ambitions, those aren't obstacles to overcome, they're superpowers to embrace. The audience erupted in applause, and Angela felt it wash over her acceptance, recognition, celebration. But more importantly, she felt it within herself. She had reclaimed not just her career or her public image, but her fundamental right to exist fully, unapologetically, magnificently. After the speech, Jae-sung met her backstage, pulling her into an embrace that felt like coming home. You were incredible, he murmured against her hair. We were incredible, she corrected, pulling back to look at him. This whole journey, I couldn't have done it without you. Without someone who saw me completely and stayed. I'll always stay, he promised. Not because you need me to, but because I choose to. Every day, you're not a project to fix or a trophy to display. You're my partner, my equal, my inspiration. Angela kissed him then, long and deep, tasting promise and partnership and the kind of love that adds rather than subtracts, that builds rather than diminishes. When they finally pulled apart, she was smiling genuinely, freely, wholly herself. That evening, walking through their nearly completed eco-district as the sun set over Seoul, Angela thought about the woman she'd been small, accommodating, perpetually apologetic. And she thought about the woman she'd become tall, unyielding, beautifully complex, The journey between those two women had been painful, marked by betrayal and heartbreak and public humiliation, but it had also been necessary. Sometimes we need to be broken open to discover we were never broken at all, just waiting for permission to be whole. "What are you thinking?" Jae-sung asked, his hand warm in hers. Angela looked at him, at the gardens growing along building walls, at the sustainable future they were creating together, and smiled. "I'm thinking that I spent so long trying to fit into someone else's vision of who I should be that I forgot I'm the architect. I design my own life. And this," she gestured at everything around them, at him, at the woman she'd fought to become, "this is exactly the blueprint I choose." He kissed her temple, reverent and gentle. "Then let's keep building. Together. Exactly as we are." And standing there in the golden hour light, surrounded by the tangible proof of her vision and worth, Angela finally felt what had eluded her for so long, the bone-deep certainty that she was enough. Not despite her complexities, but because of them. Not in spite of her differences, but empowered by them. Not as someone's dimmed accessory, but as her own brilliant, undeniable light. She had unveiled herself, stripped away the masks and minimizations, and discovered that underneath was someone magnificent. Someone who'd been there all along, just waiting to be seen, waiting to see herself. And now, finally, she did.